Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the How to Watch Football podcast. I'm Grant McKenzie and I'm joined as ever by Greg Gordon. Greg, welcome. It's been, well, there's some obvious talking points that we're going to touch on, not less the miracle in the new camp during the week between Barcelona and PSG. We'll also have a wee chat about the Arsenal situation, and we'll have a wee look towards this weekend's fixtures and maybe even the week ahead. Of course, you can read the articles from the team at How to Watch Football, myself, Greg, some of us, at howtowatchfootball.co.uk. And you can leave comments as well. Please get involved. We want to hear from you. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook at HTW Football and Twitter at HTW Football as well. We're also on YouTube. You can listen to previous episodes of the How to Watch Football podcast. This is episode 3. We're about just over 3 weeks into the launch of the website, and we've been having some fantastic responses, Greg, to some of our articles recently, no less the 2 pieces that you and I wrote regarding that event at the Nou Camp. So, let's talk about that then. Barcelona made history. They overturned a 4-goal deficit after the first leg. It's the first time it's ever been done in Champions League football, and of course the most dramatic of last-minute winners. It was an incredible event.
Absolutely, very, very exciting. Everything and more that you would expect and hope for from a Champions League tie. I think that really this is now set. The Champions League is now set the standard for everything else in football. I don't know. I think you watch it, and I think there'll be very, very few people watching at home certainly in the ground, but watching at home who wouldn't have jumped off the sofa when that final goal went in the style of the much criticised BT pundits, Ferdinand, Lineker, Gerrard and Owen, who seem to have copped a bit of flack really for their overexcited celebrations when the winning goal went in. But to be honest, I think it was such a spectacle that all bets are off, and I think a lot of the post-match criticism of various issues surrounding the game misses the fact that when all's said and done, this was just a fantastic game of football and a fantastically exciting ending to a great game.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly one of those, the spectacle as you said, and you can't complain about anybody, like the pundits and that getting overexcited about it. To be there or to be watching that, it was a fantastic moment, and it's going to be one of those really memorable moments, one of those sort of touchstone moments in football for the next generation at least. It will be held up. It will be held up as certainly UEFA will market it to its nth degree, and rightly so. It was superb. When Luis Suarez scored in the first goal, did you think,
yes,
okay, we could be on here? Did you think that was going to happen?
Well, interestingly enough, and I'm not making any great claims for myself as a mystic, I was out earlier on before coming home to watch the game, and I happened to bump into one of the school dads from the school run, and he was saying, "How do you think it'll go tonight?" And I said, "Honestly, I think Barcelona will be at a point in the game where it could go either way, and if they've got 2 goals in the first half, I think they've got every chance." And I would not be surprised if they went on and won the game. So yes, when they scored early, I thought that they made it. I thought they'd made it significantly easier for themselves than it might have been, and I would have expected them to actually go and win that game, and maybe to have won it with a little bit to spare. So I was actually quite surprised in a way that they needed 3 goals in the last 7 minutes to actually win that tie.
And I think as well that scoring those goals in the last, however, 3 goals in the last, 7 minutes.
Yep.
But that just also heightened that, the sort of the reaction of everybody when they scored, and as well, 95th minute, to score then, had they got their 6 goals, with 20 minutes to spare,
Well, that's what I thought we might. That's what I thought we might be looking at, Grant. So when
right,
the game kind of went dead when Cavani scored, I thought, as I think everybody else did, I think this is slipping away from Barcelona here. That
yeah,
that goal's really killed their challenge and taken the momentum out of the game, and also just taken the exuberance of the crowd away.
yeah, and but you couldn't have really written the script any better.
No,
And
absolutely. It's like one of those books you used to get when you were a kid. Those football books you used to get where you would read it and it would be a miracle story about a boy from the sticks who goes on
yeah,
to
there was a book I
win a.
remember. There was one of those scholastic books that I read once. One of those like terrible children's books that were in school libraries. Uh,
Yes,
and it was about like this boy who starts like a team in his street and they get to the FA Cup final.
yes.
And obviously, it's just like, utter drama, last kick of the game sort of stuff, and all that sort. Yeah, you couldn't have really and that's what that felt like. I think for everybody watching that, for them to do that, and also just uh, the complete switch around from that performance from PSG in the first leg. I mean, they were tactically spot on in the first leg, and it was a superb performance. And then what happens in this game. It's that added as well, I think, to the just the astonishment of the spectacle. Uh, what
I mean, I think there's an interesting point to be made, though, Bill. There's a couple of interesting points. The first one is it really challenges this notion that modern football is rubbish. The
Yeah,
whole kind of nostalgic
back in the good old days,
against
the halcyon
against
days.
against yeah against modern football uh, industry, which has kind of sprung up. It really challenges that. There is absolutely no doubt that there has never been football played on this earth as like there is at this moment in the Champions League. And if you don't believe that, then I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, I really don't think you understand what you're watching. Um,
Yeah,
so that would be my one point to make there. And the second point is that it really actually questions a lot of the stuff which has become fashionable recently about armchair football analysis, tactical formations, um, it's even some of the things that we write about because really what this game showed is that football is a very, very simple game about hearts and minds and momentum and big moments and chances and details. It isn't actually really it isn't a game of chess. It isn't a game of computer simulation. It's a game about blood and snotters and dirt, fear, anguish, real raw human emotions. And I think that's what I saw coming through in that game. That's why I love football, and I think that was the best advert for that football, for my football, that I think I've ever seen.
yeah. No, I agree with you there. And one of the article that I wrote was what does the fallout for this game mean for Unai Emery and Luis Enrique. So after the first leg, the pressure is obviously further increasing on Luis Enrique, and he subsequently does announce that he will be leaving at the end of the season. Unai Emery, who has enemies in the French media, there is a significant voice amongst the French media who don't like him, uh, and there is a feeling from some that he's getting unfairly criticised a lot of the times. Not his sort of lack of keenness to make early substitutions or to change the system when it's failing. They're very obvious and easy criticisms to level at managers.
Yes,
People, fans of all teams, find ways to criticise managers about, oh, they didn't make a change quick enough, or why does he persist with the system that doesn't work? And they are valid, but they are the kind of they're easy pickings for
yes.
criticisms. Uh, so Unai Emery gets plaudits, rightly so, for the tactics in the first game, and it looks as if maybe he's won everybody sort of back over, and then fast forward to full time in this game, And now all of a sudden, in my opinion, as I wrote, Luis Enrique is going to be hot property, and Unai Emery's position will have been weakened somewhat, maybe a little bit of pressure applied.
I
So what
mean,
do you think on that?
can you ever think of can you ever think of such a switcheroo? You know,
No, and
that two people's reputations could take such divergent courses in such a little time.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't, and I think that also is what adds for me. That adds to the, the how big that result what is, because the fallout, the effect that it will have, and it's just completely, as you say, it's like completely switched it around, and
But also, Grant, PSG have probably wiped out a massive amount of money on their balance sheet, not just because they didn't qualify for the quarterfinals, but because as assets, a lot of those players have been singularly devalued by you know, the
exactly.
outcome and the evidence of that game on Wednesday night. Who will buy those players now?
Yeah, well, that's it. It's
It's the
it
night
has
a team
also
died.
it's yeah, it almost is. It's fascinating the impact that this will have on the players involved. The people involved in this. Uh, I would not be surprised, as I wrote, I thought that Unai Emery would probably be on the receiving end of maybe a somewhat angry reaction, an understandably angry reaction from PSG's mega rich owners. And
Do you think it's well, I guess it's understandable. We accept it's understandable, but do you think it's merited in the case of Unai Emery?
well, I would say that if you're the owners of a football club like PSG, and you're playing in that game, and you've won 4-0. You've undoubtedly praised him and the players in the result of that. Oh, that's fantastic, Unai. And now they have to make history to come back. That that maybe adds to the sort of well done. You couldn't have done any better, really. And I'm sure they would have praised him for it. So I suppose you've got to give them the criticisms as well. And if I was one of the power brokers at PSG, I could imagine myself being a little bit disappointed to the point of maybe anger at the fact that they capitulated the lead that they had. They gave away what they gave away.
Did did they capitulate
No, they didn't. Yeah, capitulate's not
or
that.
did the game? I mean, Arsenal capitulated against Bayern
Yeah,
Munich
I
on
mean,
Tuesday,
yeah,
no doubt about it. But I think that what you're looking at in the Barcelona game is a completely
yeah.
different
No, you're
scenario.
right. That's not the right. It's not the right phrase to use. But I certainly would be, asking questions of, well, how come we can do that, but we can't. We can do what we did in the first leg, and then we do what we did in the second leg. I'm not saying that the anger would remain forever, but I'm certainly saying, I'm sure that post match was maybe a difficult, any post game meeting between Emery and his superiors would have been a little bit tense, understandably. Uh, but as
But
you say,
you see, I don't think the manager's really at fault here. I think what's happened is he's put his team out to play. They've played with an exceptionally robust high press. They've played with nothing to lose. They've played with the crowd momentum behind their back. They've played with a little bit of help from the referee on two occasions, perhaps, or one occasion. Um, no, maybe no two. I think that one of the penalties for PSG might have been awarded, and certainly the Luis Suarez penalty definitely went for them. So you could say everything kind of fell into place for Barcelona on the night. And really, could those PSG players, faced with that kind of momentum, could they really have done anything else?
no, but I'm not suggesting that the manager's. Unfortunately for the manager, he will bear the full responsibility of results. That's
Of
just the way it
course,
works,
of
and
course.
that's what I was more referring to. But I'm sure that in the fullness of time, people would say, look, it was just one of those things, and I'm not suggesting that Unai Emery's one game away from the sack or anything like that. But
Oh, I think he is.
you'll
I think
got
he is one.
really.
I think he probably is 1 or 2 games away from the sack.
I don't know. I think they'll probably give him at the end of this. Well, yeah, Saka is maybe a different thing now. They'll probably just give him at the end of the season and say, right, time to go, sort of thing. But let's go. Let's talk about Luis Enrique though. So he's all of a
Okay.
sudden, he's all of a sudden gone from, you know, fans weren't, totally. He never quite grasped the role that he never really followed in the footsteps of those before in taking on that mantle of being the leader of almost a movement. That's what it feels like with Barcelona. It's more than just that's their motto is more than a club. But
Yes.
Barcelona is a cultural touchstone for the Catalonians and for the supporters. It's a very big part of identity for them. And the manager, like Pep Guardiola did successfully, has to sort of embody that and to take on that. But
And of course,
in,
Luis Enrique did play for Real Madrid, remember, and a number of other clubs, so he's not associated with
he's not associated wholly
Barcelona
as
uniquely, is he? No,
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
not.
he was a very popular player. Let's not overlook that, though. He was very popular
Sure.
as a Barcelona player, and Barcelona fans were very happy for him to take the job. But as it developed, I think they thought there was some aspects of what they expect from a Barcelona manager that he wasn't fulfilling. He wasn't.
Mm.
He didn't cultivate. He's not cultivated the best. Not the best. Not that he's cultivated bad relationships with the media, but he's not cultivated the same level of relationship that Pep Guardiola and the
Yes.
predecessors of Luis Enrique have done, and he's also,
I think he might be closer to Ancelotti and Zidane in temperament than he is to
yeah,
Guardiola.
I would certainly say so, yeah, and he's also, the style of play comes into it as well. He hasn't relied solely on death by possession. He will be
Yep.
direct, and I prefer a direct. As much as you can admire, Barcelona's passing, the discipline involved. I like fast, direct football. Not long balls, but I certainly like counter
You like
attacking and
what you'd call a kind of mixed passing style, wouldn't you?
yeah, maybe like if you look back
The
to
ability to build up attacks and also to execute it with a killer final ball or a
ex-
quick fast break or
yeah,
yeah,
like Alex
absolutely.
Ferguson's Man United at their peak.
Yes.
The kind of not quite well, almost a kind of swashbuckling counter attacking side. Uh,
It plays for 95 or 96 minutes.
you could even look at Leicester City last season as an example of that. Being able to just break, and that there's something really pleasing about watching those sorts of. There's something really exciting about those sorts of attacks.
Yes.
So it all
I
comes.
agree.
I think it comes down to how you like to see goals scored. Do you like to see? We all like to see lots of possession. Our team have the ball all the time. We all want to see our team break fast. Barcelona certainly have they're sort of maybe predisposed towards the idea of uh, death by possession. So and
Yes.
Enrique didn't quite prescribe to that totally. And it's ironic he announced that he was going to leave after they beat Sporting Gijon 6-1, and they went top of the league.
Yep.
They
What a
leapfrogged.
prophetic scoreline that might have been, eh?
Yeah, and then of course he does this. So what it does for Luis Enrique is he all of a sudden becomes a manager who had question marks over him to a manager who will be on the shortlist of all the biggest clubs in Europe who are considering a change of management at the end of the season.
Well, say
Uh,
for example, at Arsenal, who we've talked about earlier in the week in one of the features that was published on the site. What now for Arsene Wenger? I mean,
mhm.
when I wrote that, I thought, well, Luis Enrique, he suggested he wants to come to the Premiership. Arsenal would be an obvious club for him. But
Yeah,
now you're
well, I
thinking to
agree, Phil.
yourself, he's may have priced himself out of that club.
I'm not.
You know,
I
he might
don't.
be too good for them now.
I'm not sure. I think one of the things I wrote in my article about Enrique and Emery was that I think the Arsenal power brokers will be sitting up and saying, well, if we weren't sure about Enrique before, you know,
Definitely
we,
should be now.
we definitely should be trying to get him in now for an interview at least. He's definitely going to have increased his the attractiveness of him. Uh, so I actually think rather than pricing himself out of it, he's probably given himself an even greater chance of landing that job, and I think it would be a good fit for him.
Mm.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the Man City and Man United jobs are not in.
They're not vacant.
and
Chelsea's
Chelsea's
not
not.
vacant.
So you're looking at, and obviously
Arsenal,
Liverpool. You're looking at
maybe
Arsenal.
Liverpool.
If he wants to go to the Premier League, he's looking at Arsenal, Liverpool, and I think, to be perfectly honest, he'd want to go to. I think he'd choose Arsenal.
Yes, probably.
So for me, I think
The only other alternative, I suppose, is that perhaps PSG might come in for him in the summer.
well,
That would
that
maybe
would be even that would be an even more sort of a ironic twist to this, that the slayer of PSG is then sort of taken. But stranger things have happened. It's
yeah.
you look at, but this see what's happened there is, and we're doing it right now, is that as a result of that happening, the events of the new camp, we're talking about Luis Enrique in terms of two incredibly high profile jobs in Europe, Arsenal and PSG even.
I mean, let's face it. Say for example, any top job comes up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Say there's an act of God, and every top job in the world is available. The only job, in fact, maybe not even that. He would now be in the frame for every single job. He'd be in the
Yeah.
frame for Real Madrid as a Real Madrid player.
Yes.
He'd be in the frame for Chelsea.
Bayern
He'd be in
Munich.
the frame for Man City. He'd be in the frame for Bayern Munich.
Juventus.
The list is long. Juventus, whoever you could put in the frame, he would now be in the
Because he's orchestrated. He's orchestrated one of the greatest comebacks in Champions League history. He's got a team that are that are capable and in a good position to potentially win in the La Liga. This could end up being a season where Luis Enrique leaves and Barcelona maybe regret it.
Yes,
imagine if he delivers.
Unless they've got a manager in place who they're utterly and completely committed to, I think you could rue the day that they've let Luis Enrique go. And now I'm wondering if there'll be a kind of counter move by the players that will mean that he'll stay another season.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine what would happen if they won the Champions League and La Liga?
Mm. With a manager who was on his way, but of course that's what happened with Guardiola, didn't it?
Yeah, but the way that things are going now is that the teams are they're recruiting their next manager before they've let their current manager go. So I'm sure Luis Enrique's agent is fielding approaches from all sorts of clubs.
Yeah. I mean, there's also, I suppose, the possibility of one of the Russian clubs
China.
throwing the money around. China throwing the money around.
I mean that would be a big boon for them.
What will motivate them now? Would it be a football challenge or would it be a financial?
I always, the one thing I suspect of Luis Enrique is, he's already on the record to say that he would like to manage the Premier League. He has personal ambitions to achieve certain things that really just for a personal, just because he personally wants to do those things. So there's always an element of both, and it's as with everything. I think the most important element for where he goes is really going to be timing.
Mm-hmm.
This is a man who doesn't need to work again, right? So money, whilst he's not going to stop wanting to earn more money. Of course, he's going to want to do that, but timing becomes a bigger influencer. So if the timing comes up that maybe there's a job in England he really wants, maybe he really wants Man United job, and Arsenal isn't the right time for him, or maybe Arsenal does come along at the right time. Maybe China comes along at the right time because there's not a job that he really wants, and the money's so good that he thinks I'll go to China or Russia. There's a whole host of permutations, but it's going to become an interesting topic to watch for Luis Enrique. And we're talking about Arsenal as well. As you said, you wrote that piece about what next for Arsene Wenger as a result of their, fair to say maybe fair to say that they capitulated.
I think they did. Absolutely.
There was a statement released yesterday, or rather a comment released yesterday from Arsenal's chairman, Sir Chips Keswick. Or Keswick.
Had his chips.
It says, to quote, "We are fully aware of the attention currently focused on the club and understand the debate. We respect that fans are entitled to their different individual opinions, but we will always run this great football club with its best long-term interests at heart." Continues, "Arsene has a contract until the end of the season. Any decisions will be made by us mutually and communicated at the right time in the right way." And that's the end of the comment there. What do you make of that?
I think it's a kind of wait and see. I think that they've probably already made their decision. I suspect they probably will let him go. I suspect he won't want to go, and really, he's having to re-audition for his own job, isn't he? I suspect.
Do you think that there's possibly negotiations going on at the moment about whether he leaves or moves upstairs?
No, because I don't think that any manager who comes in would
Like a David
be
Moyes
able
situation.
would be able to countenance the idea of Wenger still being there, because the club is so in Wenger's image that I think it will need to be broken down before it's built up again. And I do find that all the commentary about Arsenal being in such a great place is kind of lunacy. It's a bit like saying, I'm going to disband the Beatles, but don't worry, Mick Jagger's going to come in and do the lead vocals. It's a weird scenario, and I think that whoever inherits Arsenal and Arsenal's staff and Arsenal's facilities is going to inherit things which have been shaped in a particular point of view. You look at the precedent of Manchester United, they're now on their third manager since Sir Alex left, and they're no further forward really in terms of finding that easy identity that they enjoyed under Sir Alex for 20 odd years.
So does Arsenal look to bring in somebody to take on that task of reimagining the club, or do you think that Arsenal would rather will be quite content to maybe just join the current marketplace, which is you have a manager for about 2 or 3 years, and that's just the natural turnover?
I think they should do the first thing you said. I think they need a succession plan, which is about succession, which is about the ongoing running of that club.
But who do they bring in that would do that?
Well, I think Luis Enrique is probably one of the few managers who I think would be sympathetic.
But surely he would only really stay for maybe a 3-year stint. Really, that's what I would imagine.
No, but that might be long enough to affect the transition. It's just that the next 18 months to 2 years, I think, could be a very rocky road for Arsenal. The only other alternative, I suppose, they do have is that they might appoint some sort of old boy who understands the way that the club's set up and the way that it all works, and maybe could make a fist of that. The wild card names would be Thierry Henry, and with someone else presumably, or Patrick Vieira perhaps. But I don't really get the sense that the Arsenal fans would be particularly keen on either of those two, which to me seems odd. But canvassing my Arsenal season ticket holding friends, they seem to want a safer pair of more experienced hands and someone with a managerial track record rather than going down the road of an untried manager at this point. And I can totally see the sense in that.
What sort of names are they talking about?
I don't know. I think everybody would have loved Carlo Ancelotti, but obviously he's not available. Thomas Tuchel seems to be particularly talked up. I suppose perhaps even Unai Emery comes into the frame, doesn't he?
Yeah, well that could be. Yeah, it's amazing how football works in those ways. You could see Enrique and Emery
swapping places.
Yeah, but we're battling it out for the Arsenal job.
Yeah, battling it out for the Arsenal job.
Yeah. So, let's have a wee. We're going to wrap up shortly. Let's have a wee look forward to some of the things from this week and this weekend coming, and maybe even into next week. What's piquing your interest?
Well, obviously you've got this Lincoln City Arsenal game in the FA Cup, the much what would you say, denuded or disgraced or downplayed FA Cup. Now that this tie against Lincoln City takes on all sorts of different levels of interest now that Arsene Wenger's in this kind of embattled mode. So that would be a game that I think I'll be keen on the result. In the Premiership, let's have a look. What else is catching my eye here?
There's 3 matches on the Saturday in the Premiership, obviously as a result of the
The FA Cup action.
the FA Cup action. Yeah, so you're looking at Bournemouth, West Ham, Everton, West Brom, Hull City, Swansea City, and that's all on the Saturday. Not really,
Not great
not
fare, I think you would have
yeah,
to say.
yeah. I think the FA Cup will become the big ticket item. You've got Liverpool Burnley on Sunday, but I think that will be that comes after Tottenham Millwall, and of course you've got Celtic and Rangers in the Scottish Premiership at 12 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. So I have to imagine that those will likely those matches will likely. But of course, there's more Champions League action next week. Juventus go into a home clash against Porto. Juventus won 2-0 in Portugal, and of course you've got Leicester City taking on Sevilla. Sevilla leading 2-1 on aggregate. That's on the Tuesday, and if we look a little bit further ahead to the Wednesday, you've got big game Atletico Madrid Bayer Leverkusen 4-2 aggregate score in favour of Atletico Madrid, and Monaco Man City with that 3-5 the 5-3 advantage for Man City. So there's more Champions League drama to come
Yes.
potentially.
I think I think that we'll all be keeping our powder dry for that. I think
Yeah,
that
it'll be
this.
interesting fallout from some of those. I mean, can Monaco, who've got those 3 away goals, can they pull off the result that they need? It's a good position to be in to have those away goals that
Well,
they've got.
there's also a curious aspect to playing at Monaco. I think it's one of these grounds where, by very, very top elite standards, the pitches never seem to be in particularly great condition. And the second factor is that because it's uber wealthy Principality of Monaco, the atmosphere in the ground is never particularly conducive to Champions League football either. So it may be that Man City get a little bit of a help from the crowd, but there's a massive negative for them in terms of the pitch. So that game becomes quite hard to read, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Well, tonight, this podcast, obviously we're recording it on the Friday. Tonight, I'm on the radio commentating Dundee United versus Hibs in the Scottish Championship. As everybody knows, I'll try to get my plug in for Dundee United every week. Now
Yep.
I'm commentating that big game. United are currently 7 points behind Hibs, who are leading the championship. Dundee United are in third. A win tonight for Dundee United, who are unbeaten at home, by the way, this season,
Yes.
could see them close the gap to 4 points behind Hibs, and Dundee United do have a game in hand on Wednesday. So, remarkably enough, we're still in United are still in the hunt. So, but I will be my best neutral self in the commentary position, and
Yes.
I'll be looking at. I'm looking forward to that. It's a televised game. It's under the lights, and it should be a really good crowd. We're anticipating in excess of 10,000, which for a Dundee United game is a very high. It's a very positive attendance. So, with that, then, Greg, enjoy the rest of your weekend,
Ah.
whatever you're doing, and whichever sodden probably rain-soaked Scottish ground you'll be attending this weekend on scouting duties. You know where you're going?
No, I don't. I think it's still to be confirmed, as the popular slogan goes. But generally speaking, I tend to find those adventures perhaps the most exciting. Sometimes when you make a last minute decision to head off into the wilds, you can sometimes really find yourself a plum tie somewhere.
Well, let's hope that there's some entertainment for you and for everybody else, whatever football you're taking in this weekend. Of course, you can read more articles from Greg, myself, and of course Srinivas on howtowatchfootball.co.uk, and you can get in touch with the comments section as well, and also on our Facebook page, facebook.com/htwfootball. We both regularly comment in the comments section, so you can get involved in the debate with us if you like what we've written, or if you have a different view. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter. You can follow us for stay up to date with all the new articles when they go live at HTW Football, and of course The podcast will be hosted on the website, but they'll also be available on YouTube. So with that, thanks very much to everybody that's been visiting the site this week, to everybody that's listening. We'll look forward to speaking with you all through the week, and we'll be back next week with more from the How to Watch Football podcast.